the recording on, and I think I have everybody marked. And well, let's see, Sharita, I didn't mark you. I didn't see you come in. And Thomas, I have you. Okay. All right. Basically, what I wanted to do tonight was just kind of a quick rehash and talk a little bit about your final. If you will, I have opened, well, I haven't opened the final, but I have opened it so you can see that it is there in your last week. It will be open Thursday night after 6 o'clock. I think I got the right date. Somebody might want to check that. And it will close Sunday night about 11 or at 11:55. Once again, it's a 2-hour time limit, but I hope I have it set so that the timer's not there pushing you, so that won't make, some of you said you were a little bit nervous with that timer going off. And if you go over a little bit, you'll be all right, because I've adjusted the time frame on that a little bit due to what happened with our last quiz. It will be a combination of different types. There are probably 8 or 10 very short answer questions. There are some matching, some multiple choice. I think those are mainly the ones that I have on there. And I have said in the description of the exam that you may use any assignments that you have done to help you with the exam. As long as the assignments are from this course, you'll be on your honor to just use assignments that you've done in this course in responding to the items on the exam. One of the things that I do want to remind you about that I will say this is on the exam, is looking at the referral process for exceptional children. You do need to go back and refresh your memory about the referral process for exceptional children. Let's see, I've got a little quick, if I can see it right quickly. And of course,
Dr. Benson, where will we find that referral process?
Basically right here. It's in the policies governing procedures governing policies for exceptional children, which is on the DPI website, which we talked about very briefly. But I'm kind of giving you an overview here. And as long as you get most of this, it's not going to be a tremendous point value anyway. But I just did this because some of you were a little bit confused on something that we did before when we were talking about this. So I wanted to come back to this and make sure that everybody understood. The referral process for exceptional children starts with a pre-referral. This can be done by anybody. It can be done by a teacher. It can be done by a parent. It can be done by a principal, a social worker, a school counselor, anybody who sees that this is a kid who is having some difficulty. Now, with young children, this process is not as cut and dried as it is for the older kids, because with very young children under 8, there are some issues with making an identification. So the term that we use for those young children is DD, developmental delay. We can't distinguish the psychometric instruments that we have available are not so finite that they can, and so precise that they can identify whether a young child is just simply cognitively delayed, or if he has a learning disability, or if he has an emotional problem. We just know that there is a delay, there is a problem, but it's not easily identified at that young an age. So the referral process begins with a pre-referral. And it's called pre-referral simply because it's not going to the IEP team yet. It goes to, and different schools have different terminology for this. Some people call it a school-based assistance team. and there are other, it's any kind of team within that school that's trying to understand why this kid is having a problem. And their role is to make recommendations to the teachers for some things that the teacher can try. I think when we talked about this before, I had a pre-referral intervention manual that I held up. It's a big red book that has all kinds of prescriptive activities that one can do in a classroom when kids are exhibiting certain behaviors. So if that's a good resource. But this pre-referral just simply means that there is a problem. It looks like there's a problem, and we want somebody to take a look at it. So when we do the pre-referral, then they do a quick screening to make sure that it's not a physical problem. Like they'll do a visual, they'll do a hearing screening. They will look at the health issues that might be causing the delay or the problem. Then if all those things are ruled out, if there's no health issue, no visual issue, no hearing issue, then if the kid is still not doing well, we go into what is the referral process. And this is a formal referral. And when we say formal, it means that there is a timeline that kicks in by federal definition. From the time that a kid is referred, the school system has 90 days to do whatever it's going to do to determine what kind of service this kid needs, if he needs any at all. And it is during that time then that you get a multidisciplinary evaluation. You have the educational diagnostician come in to give them like an achievement test. You have the psychologists come in to give them like a psychological battery to determine his aptitude, what he really can understand as opposed to what he's actually doing in the classroom. Then you have a social worker who goes out into the home and visits. He may do an adaptive behavior evaluation. He certainly develops a social developmental history on that kid, looking at the milestones. Did this kid, when did he learn to walk? When did he learn to talk? Did he meet those developmental milestones at the appropriate time, within the appropriate time frame? Then the IEP team or the team makes a decision, and this decision is really, are we going to classify, are we going to identify and label this child as in need of special education services? If you are, then we have to decide, where are we going to serve him? Where are we going to place him? Is he going to be in a regular classroom? Is he going to be pulled out of the regular classroom for a certain amount of time during the day, which would be a resource? Or is he going to go to a special class within his school? Or is he actually going to have to be taken to a special school? For example, in Wayne County, we have Edgewood Developmental School, which is a special school. In Wilson and in Morganton, North Carolina has 2 schools for deaf children. In Raleigh, there's a school for the blind at the Governor Moorhead School. So the idea here is to serve that kid in the least restrictive environment, as close to the norm as possible. And it can be in the regular classroom with just the modifications, the things that the teacher in that classroom does, or it can be a few minutes of pull out to go to a special class, but he stays with his regular class during most of the day, or he may need to be contained within a special class in that school, or he may need to go to a special school. And of course, all of that is determined by the IEP. The IEP is the governing factor in what kind of service is provided to this child. The IEP should be based on the kind of evaluation that the child receives. And it's at that time that you get the label, whether he is cognitively delayed, or whether he is social and emotionally has a social emotional disability, or any of those categories that we talked about that are within the federal definition. Is he autistic, deaf, blind, developmental delay for young children, serious emotional disability, hearing impairment, intellectual or cognitive disability? Does he have multiple disabilities? So all of those are the categories that are a part of that federal definition. I just wanted to review that. We went over it very quickly one night, and I didn't feel like that I had put enough time in it for you to be able to make sense, because there is a question on the exam. I will tell you that. There is a question on the exam about that referral process. And you can, if you have the time, you can go into the North Carolina Public Schools website, go to Exceptional Children, and look at the policies for exceptional children, the procedures it's called, and they will have it listed. But this is, I've given you just a very quick, brief overview of the process. So any questions about that? I just wanted to go over that again, knowing that there is a question on the exam about that. Okay, that's clear as mud. I just want to be sure now I've got everybody. Let's see, Coy, I saw you come in. I want to be sure I've got everybody.
I'm here, Dr. Benson.
Who is that? Caitlin?
Caitlin Jordan. Sorry, I'm sick as a dog.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see, Coy. Yeah, I got it. Okay. I have looked at your unit plan and your lesson plans. They were very good. I made a few comments on just a few of them, not many, as you can tell, with 3 lesson plans to do with almost 30 people. It's been a busy day trying to get those done. And for next week, or for this week actually, you have the assessment plans, 4 assessment plans. 4. Remember, a couple of people did 8 lesson plans after I had said we only had to do 4. So it's 4 assessment plans. And you've already done one of those up here in last week of February. So you do 2, 3, and 4, 3 more assessment plans to go with the 3 lesson plans that you did. Any question about that now? One thing I wanted to mention, and I know that we have people who are already in the classroom in here, and we have a number of our undergraduate students in here as well. And there's just something that I always in this class want to mention, and we haven't done a whole lot of discussion about it, and that is the problem that we have with inappropriate behavior between teachers and students. And I'll talk about this in every class I have because it is so important, and it will get you into trouble. It will get your butt fired, and it will get your license revoked if you're not very careful. And of course, those of us who are older probably don't have that to worry about a whole lot, but you younger ones really have to be very, very careful. And there are a couple of things that I would just say to you. First of all, never be in a classroom alone with a student with the door closed. I don't care if it has a window in the door. Keep that door open. That is just for your protection and your job security. Secondly, be very careful about any touching that you do, because young kids misinterpret intention. And even though you might not have any ill intention or any illicit intention, some people can misinterpret. So just be very, very careful. The best policy is to not touch. It breaks my heart when I read and hear about teachers getting into trouble because of inappropriate activity with students. Of course, the older kids, it's more prevalent, but when I teach this class very often, one of the first questions I ask when we sort of start getting into this is, how many of you were aware of inappropriate relationships between teachers and students in your high schools? And I was amazed in every class that I have posed that to so far. At least a third to a half of the class said they were aware of. Now, they didn't have any proof necessarily. They just thought it, that there were faculty members who were involved in some kind of inappropriate relationship with students. I just cannot stress enough the importance of maintaining that distance. You just cannot be best friends with your students. You are the adult, you are the teacher, and you're the one that's going to get in trouble. They're not. And something you have to be very careful of is that you don't say encouraging things to students. You don't say things that are somewhat off color, even if you never touch anybody. Sometimes the things that you say can be misconstrued. What you might be thinking is a joke, somebody is taking it very seriously. And then if you don't follow through with what they thought you were going to do, they'll turn on you. It's just important. And I know that many of you have been in the business for a while, and you know that, but I just think I just always have to say it and remind particularly our young teachers as they go out, don't get caught in this trap. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox, but anybody have a comment about that? Unfortunately, I think it is more prevalent than we would like to believe. Any comments?
No, sir.
Okay. So those are the kind of the things that I wanted to mention tonight. Does anybody have any question now about anything that we've talked about, anything that you're unclear about? You know, we began with looking at curriculum and effective teaching and all that kind of thing, and what makes an effective teacher. Then we went into the curriculum. We went into some of the theories behind the curriculum. We talked about the developmental stages that children go through, or that we all go through. We talked about Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. And remember, there are 9 of those, not just 7 as when they first came out. We talked about learning styles, auditory, visual, kinesthetic. We really got into brain-based learning and some of the issues that we did not know about with brain-based learning. Then we looked at motivation and some of the why people do what they do. That's what motivation is all about, and some of the theories that help to explain and put into a little category or a little box so that it can better help us understand our students. We talked about the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. We talked about cooperative learning. We learned how to unpack the standards. Then we looked at Universal Design for Learning and the impact and the relationship that the Universal Design for Learning has between multiple intelligences, the learning styles, brain-based learning. All those are interconnected. And UDL is a way of organizing a lesson based on architectural concepts that you remove the barriers. You remove the barriers to learning by UDL. And we do that by, particularly, presenting information in different ways. That's multiple methods of, or multiple modes of representation. Letting kids show us in different ways their what they have learned besides just a pencil and paper test. And then how do we keep them engaged and their interest? And that goes back to motivation, what's prompting them. Then we looked at management and then trying to help kids become self-regulated learners. That's our goal. We talked about the in-task standards and what teachers are supposed to be able to do, what they're supposed to know, and how they're supposed to believe, because it is your belief that will guide your actions much more so than anything else. Sometimes even more so than what you know to be the right thing. It is the belief that you have, the opinion that you have, that drives your activity or your action. We talked about development using rules and procedures, routines and procedures to help you eliminate the need for so many different rules in a classroom. And we talked about the right kinds of, or developing test items, the importance of grading. So we've covered a lot of material. One of the things that really bugs me when I teach this online like this is that we just don't get to do the depth of discussion and the depth of things that I do when I teach this class seated. But we have covered some of the main topics that I teach in my seated class as well. So any comment or question? Make sure you refer to your syllabus and look at the objectives for this course that are in that syllabus. There's going to be something on your exam having to do with those objectives as well. I'll tell you that ahead of time. And I think that's it that I wanted to mention to you. So any comments, questions?
So that's, I'm sorry, Dr. Benson, I just lost my train of thought. So we only need to do 3 assessment plans.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I also see that there is some sort of exiting survey for the class. Now, does that go directly to you, or does that go to like an administrative board, or what? That goes, well, I can see it after all of my grades are posted. There's no way that, but it's an administrative, a bureaucratic issue. If you recall, I asked people to, when we got started with the course a little bit, to kind of give me some feedback. That was my way of formatively assessing myself. I got several from people, and I didn't get as many as I wanted, but I got several. And but this one will be, it's an online survey that is more bureaucratic in nature because other administrators can see it, the deans can see it and that kind of thing. But I can too.
So it's more like a Google review rather than a personal feedback.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Folks, I have enjoyed your class. You've done good work. As I've told you several times, you're probably the best group I've had in a long time in terms of your writing skills. I had very little correction of grammar and that kind of thing to do. We did a few grammar issues, but not many. So that helped me when I grade papers. It helps me when I grade papers a lot because if I don't have to write grammar stuff, then it's a much easier read. But you all have done a good job. I hope that what we've done in class has been beneficial to you. Sometimes you won't realize until you get out in the field that you have a foundation now for some of the things that you will be required to do in the classroom. Now, those of you who are already in the classroom, I just hope that it reinforced for you why you do some of the things that you do, what really helps kids to learn, because that's the focus. We've got to improve the quality of the learning for our students, and that goes for every content area, regardless of whether it's health and physical education or whatever. It doesn't matter. We just need to hold kids accountable, but make sure that we are helping them to achieve that level of accountability that we're seeking. But this has been a good group, and I've enjoyed the participation. Sorry, some of you didn't participate as fully as you could have, because you have good ideas. When I was reading lesson plans, it just amazed me at the variety of activities that learning activities that you do with your students, or that you're planning to do with your students, and that just pleases me greatly, because sometimes I think we get caught in a rut and don't do the kinds of things that help motivate children.
Dr. Benson, do you teach the master's program as well
I do. Mm-hmm.
in education?
I teach one course in it, yeah. I teach 585 so far, and that's the only one I've taught so far.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Why, you're going to try to avoid my class?
Of course not. I'm considering furthering my education, and I thought you mentioned in our earlier classes that that you had taught a class.
Right.
So
Yeah. I've taught the 585 class. You know, I could teach some of the others, but I haven't taught. That's the only one I've taught at the master's level yet. I designed the program, but I haven't taught all the courses.
Quick question, Dr. Benson. Do you suggest a teacher start once they get a bachelor's and work towards their master's, or work straight towards their master's and then try to find a job?
I get that question a lot.
Because some schools offer their program, they kind of do their sales pitch as go straight through your master's, then we'll place you, or then we'll work on job placement, rather than go get a job and then kind of get your master's.
Well, I think they're trying to increase their enrollment when they do that.
Yes, of course.
There's nothing wrong with going on and getting your master's. I've known lots of people who do that. I like for you to teach a little bit before you get your master's. And the reason for that, in my mind, and that's just me, that is nothing I have ever read, and I don't know that there's any research to back that up. But for me, the purpose of your undergraduate program is to prepare you to become a beginning teacher. I think the purpose of your master's program is to help you become an accomplished teacher.
Okay.
And if you don't have something, is prior knowledge. If you don't have something to attach this learning to, you know, I don't think it's as beneficial. Because when you teach, believe me, you're going to have experiences out there that, you know, are unique to you, but that probably there can be some correlation with some of the things that you learn in a master's program. Because in the master's program, you're just going into a lot of the theory in much more depth. But the way we tried to design our master's program was a combination of theory and practice. You know, how does the theory really work when you get right down to the classroom and working with students? And why does it work? And what elements of it work? And are there some parts of this theory that really don't hold water? So to me, that was just kind of the framework that we use to develop our master's program. Now, there are other master's programs that are just so totally academic. So, you know, part of it is just the kind of program that you have. Part of it is your interest. You know, there are some folks, and some folks just do it because mom and dad are going to pay for it. And then there are some folks that are just students. You know, we have a student that did her undergraduate with us in BK. Then she has worked on her master's and then has finished the coursework. And now she's going to go back and do special education. And I finally said to her, I said, well, you know, you just like to be a student. And there are folks like that. So, you know, it is an individual call. And there's certainly no research to back up my theory.
Yes.
But Stephen, it doesn't, I think I've heard if you do have a master's program, when you go into teaching, that you do get started off with more pay. So that's a plus.
Yes, I'm familiar. A lot of schools offer a different pay scale, especially master's plus, 7, master's plus 15. So yes, I'm familiar with that. I just was curious on the recommended timeline, which I think is pretty clear. I mean, I'm finishing up my 6th year of university, so yeah, I'm itching to get back into the classroom.
And Stephen, Have
do
you done student teaching yet?
No, I have not done student teaching yet, but I went overseas and taught for a year and a half. So I'm familiar with the classroom. Now I just have to play by the university rules and do what they ask of me.
Yep, unfortunately, yeah. Somebody else was trying to chime in. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Dr. Benson. It's Evelyn. I was just going to say I do agree with your concept of the teaching after you get your bachelor's and then, at some point getting your master's degree. And that's where I'm at right now. I feel like I just really need a break. I didn't know if I needed to go right into the master's program while I'm in that mode and just go ahead and get out of the way. But I really feel like I'm just kind of overwhelmed because I've been doing this for like 4 years straight.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went through summer as well. I mean, I went to summer school every year as well. So, or took summer classes, but no, I enjoy your class. I really do. I think you're a very, very fair and very great teacher. So I have no complaints. And whenever I do decide to go back to get my master's, I hope you're still around. Haven't officially retired.
I hope so too. I'm getting older. Okay, anybody else?
Is this our last Zoom for this class, or do we Zoom next Monday?
No, this is it. Class is over Sunday night.
Oh, wow. It went by fast.
It really has. It's 10 weeks, but it has gone by fast. We have covered a lot of material. Okay, folks, if nobody has anything else, I'm certainly not going to keep us any longer than we need to. I'll be glad to talk more with anybody who has a question or comment, but I don't want us to belabor the point. There's no point in that. So if there's no further questions, then I'm going to end our meeting tonight. Thank you all so much. I have enjoyed this class. I really have enjoyed getting to know you. This, to me, is the next best thing to a seated class is having the Zoom. I just won't teach this class just online without Zoom. I just don't think that I don't get it.
Yeah, the Zoom aspect really set it aside from just, logging in and submitting an assignment each week.
I agree. I've taken a lot of online classes, and this one to me has been more beneficial because you get the participation and the ideas and thoughts of others. And I think that set aside from being actually in the classroom, this is the next best thing.
I agree with Stephen and Jennifer as well, Dr. Benson. When I gave you my feedback, that was pretty much what I said, as far as this is like the first online class that I felt like that I really learned and got a lot more out of than the previous online classes that I've had.
Well, thank you. I hope that's been true for most folks. I really do. All right, folks, I'm going to end our meeting, and if you have no further questions or comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Benson.
Good
Bye, you guys. Good luck.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.